I think genuinely you attract what you are.
It's almost like you know that if you're going to trust your gut, you're going to back it up.
My family really encouraged me, like, just try. Like, what do you have to lose? So whether it doesn't work out or not, like, I'm going to find a way to make it work. So. Holy smokes. There must be a lot of resources supporting these interior designers. I can learn from those resources that are here. And you know what? I could do it really well. Do not let perfection get in the way of progress. I want to work with clients that like to have a good time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sharing Wisdom. I'm your host, Angie Wisdom today. And joining me today is a friend and somebody I look up to as far as a business role model. Faulkner is here. She is the founder of AEF Interiors. And I have a feeling we're going to have a little fun today.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah. Uh-huh. It's that sense of humor you have, all the joy and laughter you bring into everything that you do.
You know what? I just try to take it easy. I keep it light and yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that I actually said that about your humor, have you always been kind of a funny person?
It's funny you say that, Angie.
Here we go.
No, I've never really considered myself like, you know, I didn't win the superlative of like class clown or consider myself like a hilarious person. I think that I, over the last few years, have just really embraced being like my true authentic self. And maybe starting my own business was the catalyst to just owning like the quirky self that I am. So thank you for that compliment.
Yes. Humor to me is like one of the best characteristics of somebody. There's nothing more I love than to laugh.
Well, I'll take it. So 1 point for me today.
There you go. Well, speaking of, you know, kind of what you said, embracing your authentic self, was that something you eventually had to do? Wasn't always you authentic Allie? That's
a really good question. I think that what I would say is that my journey of starting AEF Interiors, which was 4 years ago, starting a service-based business, it is an extension of you. You are the brand. And when I thought about how I wanted to present it, I thought to myself, like, if I'm going to do this and really go all in, like, I am going to be unapologetically myself. And if that, you know, in the beginning, you're kind of intimidated and you're precarious to like just be you, especially with social media, because you think, oh my gosh, is that going to turn someone off? Like, especially with me, you know, not being from Orange County. I moved here 6 years ago. I didn't have a strong network. And when what you're trying to sell is you kind of do take a chance in just being unapologetically yourself. And as I really, you know, took, I don't know, some time to think about it, I was like, I'm just going to be the monster drinking, Taco Bell eating interior designer of Orange County and just own it. So it really wasn't until the opportunity like presented itself to be able to start my own business that I just said like, screw it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a tagline? The monster drinking, Taco Bell eating interior designer of Orange County?
It now is.
It now is. I think you need to trademark that for sure.
For sure.
But that's part of the reason why I wanted to have you on, actually. I mean, we've known each other as friends and as, I forget how we first met, was maybe through a mutual client or friend or something like that. But I've been intrigued by the way you kind of have like some conflicting personality patterns and habits. Like you said, like, I'm an interior designer and I'm, you know, drink monster like a truck driver. And I've always said this about you too, like you are a creative. You create the most beautiful spaces as an interior designer, but you are so business minded. You know, you're super organized and process oriented, which isn't really always the case for creatives. Sorry for all my creatives out there, right? But it's not always the case. So it's interesting to me how you kind of have, you know, some of this duality and two sides of everything.
Yeah, I think that, you know, I don't know if we should go there, but I feel like I can never make a short story, actually a short story, but I'll make the Spark Note version of my journey. Coming to Orange County, what prompted me to move here was I was recruited by a startup to help them build a hospitality company. I used to work in luxury hospitality and consulting. And unfortunately, or fortunately, they brought me here to California. I relocated. I was with them for 2 years. And like many startups, you take a chance, right? And I got laid off. And you start to think to yourself in those moments, like, okay, what do I want to do? And truly, like, the duality of what I do with making things beautiful and also having like a heavy operations hand, truly the like center of both of those is helping people better. And like interior design just so happens to be the way that I help people better, and I have the tools of my business and operations background that helped me build this. So I do think it's a unique blend of skills that have brought me to start AEF Interiors and to be where it is today. But yeah, it's not your norm, I will say. And I think that I've really just leaned into that and very much had to recognize like how we are different than the other, newsflash, 2,500 other interior designers within 25 miles of Costa Mesa.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah. So when before I started the business, after I got laid off, I was like, okay, if I'm going to get into this market, like I should probably do a little bit of research, at least a one pager. Yeah. And there were, before COVID, there was 2,500 interior designers within 25 miles of Costa Mesa. And now for a lot of people, they could look at that and feel like, holy smokes, I'm discouraged. This market is way too saturated. Where myself, I looked at that and I said, holy smokes, there must be a lot of resources supporting these interior designers. I can learn from those resources that are here. And you know what? What makes AEF Interiors different? Because at the end of the day, I hate to say it, a lot of us are sourcing from the same places. We're all providing a tangible product. And really what makes us different is like who we are and the service we provide. And I knew, given my like hospitality background, that I could do it really well. So I like leaned in on that front. Don't even know where I'm at in the story, but the moral of the story is that it's a incredible opportunity for me to serve people better by being in this industry. And if it just so happens I get to be around a bunch of pretty stuff, like this is a win-win.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that there were that many interior designers in such a small radius, I love that you brought that up, because I have clients that often are getting into real estate or getting into coaching, or, I mean, look, most every business is saturated when it comes down to it. And most people do shy away from that. Like, oh, how am I going to get the market share? You obviously had a totally different perspective. Where did that come from? Like, have you always had that mindset and that optimistic perspective, or is that something that you've grown into?
You know what? That's actually a really great question. I think that growing up, I always was kind of dealt like an unpredictable hand of cards, or I don't even know if that's the appropriate way of saying it, but I moved a lot growing up. So I went to 2 different elementary schools, 3 different middle schools, and 2 different high schools. And it constantly felt like I was putting my foot in of a new door. And it's like, I could have sat there every time I walked into a new school and just like waited for people to come to me, right? Instead, I was like, I'm not eating freaking lunch alone today. I'm gonna go make myself some new friends. So I do think that just my upbringing of moving so much, you do kind of start to understand that like, it's what you make it. And moving again out here to Orange County and having the opportunity, I look at it as like an opportunity that I got to start this business. Like, and in a market that, again, while very saturated, like, you got to believe that there are other businesses that want to go after that really saturated market, right? Sure. But my like optimism, I really think, comes from like just being thrown into so many new environments all the time. And I was never afraid to like fail growing up. Like, I ran for student body president probably like 3 times between middle school and high school. Like, I tried out for the new dance team, didn't make the dance team. Like, tried out for the basketball team, didn't make the basketball team. But like, for all the 10 times that I tried, I maybe succeeded twice.
Right.
You know, so I think growing up, my family really encouraged me, like, just try. Like, what do you have to lose? So I think the letting go of the ego of like what people call failure.
Right.
I wasn't afraid to like do it because I really was willing to bet on myself and like know that like, okay, I'm going to figure it out.
Right.
Like whether it doesn't work out or not, like I'm going to find a way to make it work. So I think that probably answers the question, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we can check that box.
Yeah.
Well, I'm smiling over here because, we had some time together the other night, which is a whole nother story if we start talking about charades, but we had some time the other night and we kept kind of laughing. That was really the first time that we've spent time together personally, and just kind of laughing and sharing some things. And we kept kind of recognizing some of our similarities and going, oh yeah, that's me. And as you share this, I mean, that's the way I grew up too. Not necessarily with supportive parents, but with the fact that it was like, just try. I tried out for volleyball. I tried out for basketball. I had no business trying out for any of that stuff.
No way.
But I would try out for everything secretly because I knew once you were on the team, you got goodie bags every time there was a game. I swear that was really my rationale. I was like, if I can get a goodie bag every single time there's a game, like how cool is that?
Sure.
But the camaraderie of like being on a team and also just going, who knows what you're good at?
Yeah.
If you don't try, you never, ever know what you're good at. And what if I'm like secretly a really good volleyball player or a really good basketball player? So to your point, it's like, what do you have to lose?
And I think when you're constantly throwing yourself into those environments of like what may feel like discomfort to a lot of people, you start to get really comfortable, like being uncomfortable. And I'm reading a book on it right now. Actually, I have it in my purse. But Adam Grant, it's the book that's called, is it called The Hidden Potential? I think that's what it's called. I'm reading about it right now. And he talks so much about like, you just have to try. And like your curiosity and your proactiveness to like learn new things is really like, everyone has hidden potential and growth in them if they have the mindset to want to grow, the know-how to like ask the right questions, and just the curiosity to learn. So it's funny because I feel like I did that just so much like naturally growing up, and then I like read about it in a book. I'm like, oh, this is actually real. Like,
I have a real skill set here. I did something really good.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wonder if it's the humor. Us both being really funny people.
Duh.
Like maybe it's that humor that just is like, failing, who cares? We'll get back up and do it again.
Figure it out. Yeah.
Yes. But obviously what you're doing has worked. I mean, 4 years.
Yeah.
And you're growing by leaps and bounds. We were just talking about like the way you're scaling your company, which I definitely want to talk a lot about, because many people, they get into a position as an interior designer in a service-based business like that, and it's hard to get yourself out of that like person that does it all and like, into the leader where you're scaling.
Sure.
So tell me a little bit about that journey.
Yeah. So what I'll start with is I started in the industry without ever working for anyone else, going to school. And when I started the business, I was ultimately attracted to it because I thought to myself, okay, this business is serving a luxury clientele. I've served this luxury clientele in another facet of their lives, which was travel. I know how they operate. I know how they like to be attended to. I can serve them at home. And so my options were like, okay, I can either go back to school, learn this technical part of the job, or make best use of my time and try to figure it out as I go and know that I will hire for that skill set. And that really was like kind of the ground level of like realizing as a good leader, you have to always hire people who are smarter than you and give them the opportunity to operate in their, like, I don't know what the buzzword is, zone of genius, their superpower. Like, I just knew out of the gate, like, my superpower was not going to be to learn everything about the ins and outs of interior design, but what I knew my superpower was going to be to craft a really rad, seamless client experience and put the like heroes in place to make it happen. And so I think that having that mentality coming in and just knowing that like I would know enough to be dangerous, and I'd always stay curious and like ask, like a cabinet person, they'd be like, does this look good? And I'd say like, well, what are my other options? Again, always staying curious and realizing that what I was really good at was building the business, building the operations, and really building an incredible place for people to work and enjoy working. And so I thought to myself, like, as much as I love picking fabric, as much as I love creating beautiful spaces, again, that just so happens to be the vessel and the vertical of how I help people better. And that's not just helping my clients have a better experience in building their home, but it's also helping my team have a better place to work.
Right.
And that's really what I'm so passionate about, is like helping people better. And when you have that mindset, it makes it really easy, because if I'm the interior designer in everything, like I'm not helping them have more growth in their career, like I'm stifling it. But if I look at myself as a leader and a supporter to them having a better life, a better work-life balance, like I just always kind of knew going into it that like interior design was a passion of mine, but like my true dream was to help people better. So that's really anchored me to not get so obsessed with perfection and being in all the nitty-gritty details, and recognizing that I'm juggling a bunch of balls building this business, and I just need to know which ones are going to bounce back and which ones are glass. And finding the right people to help me run the circus has been super crucial to our growth and to where we are now, I would say.
Well, you said something that just, I can't get it out of my head because it's so important, and I want people to make sure I want to make sure people caught it. You said building your team or something in that regards, but making sure that you put the right heroes in place. And for anyone that's listening, a leader to be able to say that they're putting the heroes in place says everything about your ego, about the space that you're creating. Who doesn't want to be a hero in the job that they have?
Yeah.
But oftentimes leaders don't create that space, and not as an ill intention, but because they're trying to problem solve for them all the time. They're not necessarily empowering, but that's huge. I mean, that's the best definition of a leader, is being able to help others win.
And I think that again, going back to my core values, it's truly to help people better and develop people. And I think I've always just been kind of a natural leader, but the skill set to grow people. I mean, I just told you I have a book in my purse. I listen to your podcasts. I attend all of the workshops that you have. I'm an obsessed learner. And while again, I've always kind of been just a natural leader to walk into the room, and that's to know ego, but it's just something that's come natural to me. But the learning how to develop and lead people, it's something that I've had to put a lot of work into.
Right.
And I think that for anyone that is looking to grow and scale a team, if it's not your natural skill set, I wish I could press rewind and show you all the times I'm practicing how to have a difficult conversation in the shower. It's real. It's continuing to be curious, and when you are so passionate about helping other people, you're willing to do that for them.
Right.
Because I think that having a tough conversation, it's not just about the words that are said, but it's how you deliver it.
Sure.
And this girl needs to practice sometimes.
Everybody does. Yeah. Everybody. So if it's in the shower by yourself, whatever, Yeah,
exactly.
But you mentioned that we've talked about this before, you're a helper.
Yeah.
You know, 2 on the Enneagram, helper, wing 3, achiever.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of the qualities in there that are coming out as you talk about wanting to help people.
Yeah.
Obviously, why not try? I know I'll figure it out as all achiever. But you're really speaking to the higher, healthier levels of those helpers and achievers. Most helpers are in this place of helping to a detriment, or like you said, not really willing to have the hard conversations. Sometimes helping to really kind of help yourself. so that you can be the hero, not letting them be the hero. So was there a phase that you went through where you transitioned to more of that healthier helper?
I think that's really interesting you say that, because I read something that said, like, and I think as help, like me being a 3 wing 2, I am a people pleaser. And so I think in all of my career of leadership, I mean, I started leading a team of 26 people at 22 years old. Like, I was very fortunate working at a large corporation that they put a lot of emphasis on, like, oh, okay, you're going to lead a team, like, you're going to go through leadership training. So I always was very, like, cognizant of this leadership role I wanted to embody, but it really wasn't until I owned my own company that I really started to, like, understand what leadership meant. So going back, I would say that what kind of brought me to this, like, let's call it healthy place of being a helper, is realizing that there's being polite versus being kind, and being polite is wanting to, like, make someone's day and make them feel good. There's being kind, which is also having, like, the candor to want to help them grow, which may, like, for example, if I was to look at you and you had something in your teeth, I'd be like, I don't want to embarrass you at all, but I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't tell you had something in your teeth. Like, I could, like, let you go on with the rest of your day. It would be like, the polite thing would have been to let you walk away, because I maybe don't know you, but because I care about you, I might tell you, like, hey, we're about to have a tough conversation. Like, I'd like to be sitting on the same side of the table at the end of this. Like, help me understand. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I need from you. And I think that growing my business as a helper, I wanted to be a people pleaser, and realizing that I was doing myself a huge detriment in just trying to make all of the people working for me happy by, like, not addressing what was going on, or not realizing, like, maybe something wasn't a good culture fit. And I realized if my true goal and my true passion is to help people better, I'm actually doing them a really big disservice by being polite and being a people pleaser. So it's through, scaling and growing this business. And as your team grows, you start to realize, like, holy smokes, like, there's a culture that's being built here. And through that experience, sometimes you realize the things that may not be a fit. And so going through that experience has made me had to have, like, the hard conversations with myself and maybe other people as well, to say, like, I would not be a true helper to everyone around me if I didn't learn how to have those, like, fair and sometimes hard conversations with people. Because I think naturally, again, I do what I do to serve people and to, like, make them happy. But sometimes you're doing that at the sacrifice of yourself, them, and the people around them. So I think that growth is something that I've experienced probably more in the last, like, I'd say, like, 2.5 years. Because as you grow your team, you start to see what culture you're building, and you start to see and recognize, like, oh, those core values are, like, embodied by that person, but maybe not all of them by other people. And so I think that building that team has made me really grow into the healthier, like, form of the helper, because but it wasn't easy. Like I said, it was a lot of dress rehearsals in the shower. Like, it was a lot of that to get to where, like,
your husband, like, what are you talking about?
No, he's the one who's like, ma'am, you need to go try again.
It's like, not take 3.
What's the desired outcome? You need to go try again. So it's been
a process.
It's now that we're at a place, in 4 years, it's me plus 7 now. 7 doesn't happen overnight. You grow into your, like, leadership style. And it's just been an event of growing a team and realizing, like, okay, if I truly want to help people better, I do have to, like, be that person to them and say, like, hey, as your boss and someone who cares for you, like, this is what I'm noticing. Like, help me understand what's going on.
So that's your helper transition there, that maybe over the last, 2.5 years, that's really popped up for you. What about the achiever side of it? Because the achiever, as a wing, it's like perfectionism. You don't, it's never good enough. You want everyone to kind of meet those same standards that you have. Where was that in the beginning compared to where it is now?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think very early on, I had the piece of advice of my very brilliant husband who said, you cannot expect to start this business and have it be perfection. And kind of my like mantra of anyone who's looking to start a business, take your pens and paper out right now. Do not let perfection get in the way of progress. And I think in the beginning, I embodied that pretty kind of early on and just had the notion and idea that like I just needed to know enough to be dangerous. I didn't need to know every little detail. I again just had to find, like, not all superheroes wear capes. Like, they're out there, they're going to help me learn. And I think especially too, as you continue to grow and scale your team, you have to recognize like which balls are glass and which ones are going to bounce back. And I've realized that like the way that we learn is through, let's call it failure or things that you're learning. Like as you scale and delegate to your team, you cannot be obsessed with perfection. Like I consider something a win if like someone learns from it and like never makes that mistake again, right?
Yeah.
I use the Ted Lasso like metaphor of like, be a goldfish. We have 8 seconds. Like it happened. We learn from it, move on. But I think that the thing that I will say is that if you have an expectation of, let's call it perfection, or if you have just a high standard that you want to operate in, you need to constantly reflect on yourself. How can I better? The way that I look at it is, right, if I want a team who can demonstrate autonomy, right? I think we all do as leaders, business owners. We want a team who can take ownership and have autonomy. Well, in order for you to do that, you need to give them the tools, because they want the people on your team want to please you. They want to feel confident in what they're doing. So if you're not giving them the framework to refer back to, like a standard operating procedure or a template of how your process works in Asana, you can't hold someone accountable to that perfection or expectation or standard without providing them to that. So I found throughout the process of, again, not being obsessed with perfection, it was super important for me as we continued to grow the team, because anytime something wasn't done the way I wanted it to, I felt like I took a moment to be self-aware and be like, well, they're not a mind reader. How the heck would I have expected them to do it this way without giving them the paper trail or the confidence to do it that way? When you see, it's also important, I think, when you're obsessed with perfection and you start hiring a team to understand and recognize the difference between isolated incidences and habitual habits. Right?
Absolutely.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Absolutely.
But I think that if you want, and it ultimately comes down to what do people want as they grow their businesses. If you want to grow and scale your team and go sit on the beach and have a Mai Tai, I hate to break it to you, you can't be obsessed with perfection. You just have to be able to have the framework in place to be able to delegate it to someone and give them the confidence that they know they're going to do it well for you. Like, give them that confidence. So I always just think to myself, like, when giving a new task, like, give it with some framework so that they can actually go run with it, because that's what they want to do. They want to do well.
Sure. What a great amount of responsibility you take in leading people, and many leaders wouldn't say that, like, why did you do this wrong? I call them silent expectations.
Oh,
you have it in your mind, what you want, but
Yeah.
it hasn't really been conveyed fully, or you don't have that process or that system outlined for them. But I hear you talking and taking so much responsibility for, well, did I set them up right? Did I give them what they needed? Did I really clarify all of that?
Yeah.
I mean, your husband must just think you're a dream to communicate with.
I've learned a lot from him. Like, he's a fantastic communicator, but I would say that every conversation that I have with people, I always try to think, like, what's your desired outcome? Right? Like,
always.
What's your desired outcome? Like, when people are like talking to me and they're like, "Da, da, 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 da," and they're like, I'm like, okay, well, first of all, do you want me to listen or you want feedback?
Right.
Let's start there. And then if they say, hey, I want feedback, I'm like, okay, well, what's your desired outcome? Because my advice is going to be vastly different based off of what your desired outcome is. So that's how I constantly think about, like, when I'm operating with my team, wanting perfection, right? Like, or what do I want them to learn? What is my desired outcome? There are times like I'll have a conversation with someone. I'm like, hey, I noticed X, Y, Z. Let's bring it to your attention. Walk me through what happened. Second time it happens again. Hey, you know what I'd like for you to do? Can you, between now and next week, when we have our next weekly, will you write down all the steps that you did to do this thing? Mm-hmm. We'll review it next time. Third time it happens. Where's that piece of paper?
Right. Yes.
Like, right. So, I think though that perfection is just, I know it stems a lot of a 3 being an achiever, but like, I just don't think it's real when there are a lot of hills that I'm willing to die on, but like perfection of 100% execution of something in a very certain way, I think is very unrealistic because we're all humans and we do things very differently. But if you give the framework, like...
And what is perfection?
Yeah,
I always say, like, define that for me. What is actually really perfect? And perfect in your mind is different than perfect in my mind.
1,000 freaking %. Yeah, I agree. So it's just like, I think for me, I just always relay things back to like our process of helping people better. Yeah. Does that help the client better? By you ask, what you're asking, like, is it going to help your team better? Mm-hmm. Like, I just try to bring everything back to like, hey, this is why we're doing it. Like, it's to help the people around you better.
Back to the why.
Back to the why. Yeah.
So we've established that you're this amazing helper who wants to help people that work with them, help your clients as well. Mm-hmm. We know how much you love to educate, which we'll talk about too. You're this gracious, responsibility-taking, leader, all these amazing things. And you all have so much fun at work.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we try.
What is that like? I mean, you guys are always laughing and shenanigans in your recordings and everything. There's always fun going on.
I think social media is, a whole nother topic we could dive into, but 60% of my business comes from there, right? 60% of my business comes from Instagram. And when you are in a service-based business, again, you're selling yourself and the people who work on your team. So I look at social media as a way not only to market to our ideal clientele, because I'm sorry for a client who doesn't want to laugh and maybe have a margarita at a meeting, like AEF Interiors is probably not the best fit for you. Mm-hmm. But also I use that as a tool for marketing to like future team members of AEF Interiors. Like, I think that it's super important, and it's a free platform, like it's a free platform. We don't do any paid, we don't do any sponsored. And I think that showing who we are, how we operate, how we do things differently I had like a really tough time in my business like 2 years ago, and I had to like shake things up big time. And I really had to dig deep, as like Jeff from Survivor would say, like, dig deep. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it and figure out like what makes us different. Yeah. And it just so happens that Instagram is the way that I show that off. Is like, again, we're a service-based business. We need to show how we're different than everyone else and why they should choose us. And it just so happens that Instagram is the way for us to show that and then get clients who are very similar to us. And it's honestly a win-win.
Right. Well, it takes me back to your conversation in the beginning of authenticity, like how important it is to be authentic, because if you're showing up in a certain version of yourself, authentic or inauthentic, you are going to attract what you're putting out there.
100 freaking %. Like, I think genuinely you attract what you are. And I have never really understood that statement till starting my own business. You really do. Like, you attract what you are. And so leaning into that, again, going back to the authenticity approach, I was like, I just want to work with like, I really started to think about it. I was like out having a drink with my husband. I was like, why do I show people that I like eat Taco Bell? Like, why do I show people that kind of like, but that side of me, and it's what I realize of the reason that I'm doing it is because I want to convey to people that like, I don't really take things too seriously. I'm not a like brain surgeon. Like, I'm not doing anything that's like saving lives. Like, I want to work with clients that like to have a good time and like realize that like we make it a fun process. And yes, it's really streamlined, it's built out with tech, but like we're here to have a good time. Like, we're here to help you better, but also have fun doing it. And if you want this like super hoity-toity like luxe, like, and we're approachable luxury, like that is who we are. But like, if you really want that like super 5-star white glove like frou-frou experience, like I'm probably not your girl. My team is probably not the team. But leaning into, again, just showing that I'm having a martini on the weekends and I love blue cheese stuffed olives, like, you know, like showing that I went to go pick up a bagel at the neighborhood bagel shop like in my like slides with socks on. Like, I've realized that I'm doing that because I really want to just attract people who just don't take things too seriously. And that like kind of was a little bit of self-discovery. I was like, why am I doing this? You know, like, but I do find that what's so beautiful about sharing all of that on Instagram is that like when I have conversations with potential clients, they're like, oh yeah, I already know who you are.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
I already stalked you. Like, I actually think that Del Taco is better than Taco Bell.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, we'll settle that at the first meeting.
Right.
But it's just really nice, like showing up without being scared of, you know, I curse on my Instagram too. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on this podcast, but I curse like a sailor. Like, and I just...
You did see the episode of Jenny, didn't you?
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Anyways, fuck it. No, just kidding. But no, it's... The matter is that I just think that Instagram is a great opportunity for us to attract like-minded people and work with people who share similar values to us. And I think you talk a lot about values. It's a great opportunity for us to like show what we're all about at AEF Interiors. And like I said, it's a free platform. It can be intimidating though, like in the beginning, I will say. Like, I know it's not for everyone, but you just like talk to the camera, figure it out, move on.
You do it so well. But again, I think that goes back to the authenticity piece. It is intimidating and challenging when you're trying to show up as how you perceive people want you to show up, right? Like if you're like, well, okay, they want this 5-star, you know, hoity-toity experience, so I need to show that, but it's not really you.
Yeah.
Then that's really uncomfortable and really intimidating.
Yeah.
But if you approach it, and kind of what I hear you saying is like, instead of putting stuff out there that hopefully people will like and want to work with me because of it, I'm putting just myself out there, and people who accept that, you know, it's an invitation to them. And it's just a different way of kind of approaching it.
And I think that not only is it people who work with us from a client perspective, but also like my team, like of the 7, 8 people that I've ever hired, like only, and I'm not from Orange County, only one of them is someone that I didn't know. Everyone else like was connected either through Instagram or through people I've met on Instagram. Like, and it's just being referred to or pointed in the right direction because they're like, oh, I think you would really get along with like who this person is that I see on Instagram. Like, I'm going to send you this like posting. And don't get me wrong, like we're all 5-star, like, right. I'm going to like put the toothbrush.
Sure.
Yeah. But like, I lived that Deloitte win 5-star 5-diamond life of wearing a suit every day, pantyhose, high heels, like kick rocks. No thanks. Like I'm over it. I'm going to wear sneakers and a dress and a jean jacket to work and show up with a Monster Energy drink. And like, I'm ready to rock and roll and have a good time, you know? But I think that a lot of people are scared to be themselves on Instagram. And I like,
for sure,
it makes me so, I don't know, sad, like that they're scared of judgment. And I chose very early on, I was like, I'm gonna fucking unapologetically like be myself and attract who I am. And I think it's gonna, in the long run, like if you're gonna go start something of your own and build something of your own, like it's so much easier to be just you.
Oh, 100.
Yeah.
It's easier to live into that, right? But sometimes harder to take that step. But I always say you have to choose your fear, right? Fear of judgment.
Yeah.
And not being seen, you know, the way that somebody wants to see you, or fear of never getting to be yourself. Which one's scarier?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you have to kind of make that choice and let go. I always say too, you know, it's like not everyone's going to like everybody.
Agreed.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But even as a leader too, not everyone's going to may not like you in every given moment, right?
Sure. So we all have different personalities.
For sure.
And to try to put yourself out there in a way that every single person is going to, you know, connect with and like is just 100% possible.
Yeah.
That's why people get stuck.
I feel like that how do you market to those people? How do you, you can't market to everyone. You become a master of none. I echo. Ditto.
Yeah, you
Angie.
got it. We're on the same page
Ditto.
again.
Yeah,
Love it.
We're there.
So where is AEF going? You got a new office space.
I know.
Yes.
We're spoiling the secret. I don't know when this comes out.
Was I not supposed to say anything?
No, you're totally fine.
Edit that out.
No, you're good. You're good. Yes. So we just signed a new office space on PCH, which is just I don't know, not being from here, moving here 6 years ago, to have this business and then to say that we have an office on PC. I can't even say it. That's how freaking awesome it is, right? It just is so freaking wild to me that this is my life. I'm so lucky. But where is AEF Interiors going? So we're moving into an office space because it's going to be me plus 7. And I am really passionate about continuing to grow my team. I don't want to lose, max headcount wise, I'm probably thinking 12 people because I still want to be able to be hey, Julia, where are you going this weekend with Teddy? Where are you, what's happening here? The stroller broke. I still want to know so much about each individual on my team and their lives. And I think when you grow the headcount too big, you might lose that. So the interiors side of the business, which is the only side that people probably really know right now, maybe they're seeing glimpses of the other verticals that I want to build, but the intention and my sole focus, I'm very heads down in creating this interiors firm, making it the top firm for people to work at in Orange County, the top interior design firm, and working with just cool clients, big projects, really fun, loose creativity that we get to just run rampant, and of course with boundaries, but working on really cool jobs, having a place that people really love to work. I think, again, going back to what my core mission is to do in life, it's to help people better. I want to do that with the interior side of the business, but I've also started to realize that I can do that in so many other ways. So I'm kind of starting to dabble into this education vertical. Last year, I did a few podcasts. I also did a mini masterclass teaching other interior designers on what our client experience is like, and just have, if opportunities present themselves for me to be able to help other people build their businesses better. Again, going back to what I really am passionate and love doing, I'm happy to say yes to those opportunities. Am I going out and trying to really monetize and build that education vertical right now? No, because I really need to set my team up for success and pour into the individuals and grow them to where they need to be for me to be able to come up for air and go look at the other verticals that I want to build. But I know that everything that I do will come back to okay, is this helping people better?
Right.
But yeah, the interior side of the business is growing and I'm really excited. I started working with a business coach, interior design business coach back in January, and I just really want to see where it can go. I always say AEF to the moon, and I feel we finally built the rocket ship now with me and 7. It's okay, we're ready to launch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go.
Which sounds crazy when you're talking about starting 4 years ago.
I know.
When somebody says, I finally built a rocket ship. I mean, we've been in this for 4 years. Come on.
It feels like a century, but I totally get it from the outside. And I'm not going to lie, I think that growth of companies are like two things, right? I think it's a lot of grit from like the owner, the team. And then I think it's a timing. I do think timing has really been on our side. You know, I started the business in October of 2019. What happened next year? The home industry was just unprecedented. Like the amount of growth that I really rode the tailwind of COVID to get us to where we are. So like, yeah, I want to like say, holy smokes, look where we are 4 years. But I will say that like timing was very much on our side. But we took advantage of that. A lot of people could have like I took a lot of risks this last 2 years. I will say I took a lot of risks, but a lot of like informed risks. Some risks that were based off of data, and then some risks that like were more my gut. And it's so scary when you make the gut like risk. You're just like, is this gonna work?
But you know, you have the gut feeling.
The gut feeling, yeah.
How often is that right for you?
Believe it or not, it's probably like 75% of the time my gut. Yeah. You just got to trust it.
Yeah.
Like if it's 50-50, like it's worth a shot. Right?
I mean, now we're playing, roulette or craps, right?
Yeah. But over the last 2 years, I had to take a lot of risks. And like, I think this last year, we are past the like grow or die era. I know that sounds kind of extreme, but you just are like, okay, is this thing gonna work? Right? Like, is it gonna be profitable? Like, am I gonna be able to scale it? And I feel like I'm pushed the boulder over the mountain, and I've got some more hills to climb, but like, that's not the big one.
Right.
So,
well, I want to ask you two questions that brought up. One,
sure.
Well, first I want to note something when you said you had some of the timing of the luck of timing. Yeah. That happens, but nobody sustains and continues that growth unless they're doing the right things, right? So you may have had a little bit of that tailwind, but you utilized it in the right way, which can be seen now, where many other people had that same little phase of tailwind and luck, but then, the wind went out of the wings. Is that what you say, or something like that?
Let's make it a tagline.
The wind went out of the wings.
Yeah, the wind went out of the wings.
Sales probably, not wings.
Yeah.
Something like that. But so credit for that. Make sure you give yourself credit there.
Yeah.
But the other thing you said, your gut is usually right 75% of the time, which is pretty good. Do you think that there are certain things? I want to lead you this question, but that you have to have a relationship with yourself, or like, what makes you know and trust your gut?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question. I think that my like grit and like resilience, if I set out to like do something or try something, I'm gonna throw everything at the wall to like make sure it works. Like if I'm gonna, let's just say, take a risk of, I'll take you back to like July of 2022. Like I had $30,000 in the bank account, like had just sent out 9 bids and only won 2 of them. Like I didn't have a lot of like runway. And I was like, okay, well, 50% of our business at the time comes from Instagram. How much of my time am I spending there currently? Okay, I can buy back my time, hire someone to help me with social media, and I'm gonna take the risk to do that because I believe in myself that I'm gonna buy my time back and I'm gonna make the best of that time. And like taking the risk, and also the gut, a lot of my gut too is led off of like, because I've moved so much growing up, a lot of my gut decisions are based off of my like read on people. Like, okay, should I hire this person? Like they don't have a ton of experience, but they're kind of demonstrating a lot of potential growth to me. Like my gut says yes, and just believing in that, like, if I'm going to take that chance, I know I'm going to do everything in my power to like figure it out and make it work. Like if I'm going to hire that person, I'm going to stay up all night to give them the framework to successfully be in that role. If I'm going to take the risk to hire that person to help with social media, I'm going to give them the framework of how we're going to go through the approval process. I'm going to take the risk because I'm going to take the onus upon myself to like have it be as successful as it can be. And like, I think that, you know, I don't know, like the willingness to trust my gut, I think has a lot to do with my like ability to kind of read people, if that is like a fair answer to say. And then seeing the potential growth that could come from that. But I also think it's just knowing that like, if something doesn't work, like I'm going to figure it out.
Right.
You know, like it'll work out. Maybe it won't be exactly what you expected, but you'll figure it out. And I've always just kind of, again, how many times did I run for student body president? Didn't win. Like I was treasurer one year. I figured it out.
They missed out.
Yeah. They
so missed out.
Yeah. Dang it.
But I mean, I hear you going back to responsibility again.
I know.
It's crazy. You know, like when it's almost like, you know, that if you're going to trust your gut, you're going to back it up with responsibility, and you're going to do everything you can. Where I think a lot of people, they trust their gut, and, you know, we half-ass it. Yeah. It's just like, well, I got this good gut feeling, but are you willing to do all that back work to make sure that gut feeling actually has some legs and goes somewhere? Yeah. Instead of just, you know, running with it and hoping that it all works out. That it all
falls into place. Hope's not a strategy. I don't know if you ever heard that before, but really. But yeah, maybe it's just, I just feel like I have always, you know, I paid for my own undergrad. I worked like 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. and I'd go to school from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Like I just have always put the onus on myself to like just figure it out. And like, good old fashioned responsibility.
That's right.
Yeah.
Fueled by monster.
Yeah. Oldest child syndrome, fueled by monster.
Yes.
Yeah. But
that's all good stuff.
Yeah.
Let's fire away a couple of quick questions.
Yeah.
Just to help people wrap it up here, because I think you've given so much value as people are listening and thinking about scaling, showing up authentically, building teams, you know, and where you put your efforts. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, just rapid fire answers here.
Okay, let's see if I can.
Call it Spark Notes?
Spark Notes version. Yeah. I'm not very good at it. Let's try though.
Well, here's to editing. Right?
Cheers.
The number one thing people need to understand when they start their business.
Do not let perfection get in the way of progress.
Okay. The number one thing people need to think about when bringing people on a team and scaling.
Track all of your data.
Ooh.
Track all of your time. And even if you're a not billable company, I highly suggest tracking all your time so that you have that information in order to hire and scale.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Authenticity. What can somebody do to bring out their authentic self?
Ooh, have a martini. No, I would say that like, just think of, if you're going to be your authentic self on Instagram, just act like you're talking to a friend. It's not a camera. Just know that like you are going to attract who you are. So if you want to work with more like-minded people, the only way to do that is to truly be you.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of like-minded yous out there for everyone that's listening, right? Yes.
Yeah,
there are
absolutely.
plenty of them. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And where can people find you?
People can find us on Instagram, AEF Interiors. It's pretty short and simple. Yeah. Maybe we'll make a debut on TikTok.
Oh,
so stay tuned.
You put out great content. And I mean, speaking of that, like you've got a decent following in a short period of time. What do you attribute that to?
Again, like when what you would call maybe failures or challenges in front of you, I had to really get specific on where we wanted to go and how we were different and show up. And so what I will say, this is total kudos and shout out to my social media marketing manager. She was freelance for the past year and a half. We've now started to work together in-house as of March, but we have grown from March till now, so about a year, we were at 7,900 followers and we're almost at 37 today. And we have only photographed one new project.
Wow.
So no paid, no sponsored. Without having new projects to share with the world, it really kind of put our backs up against the wall to start creating like really unique content to show how we were different and what our process was, because that's really what makes AEF Interiors different, is how we do things. And because we didn't have a whole lot of new work to share with the world, because it was all in progress, because construction takes forever,
Yes.
we had to lean in and say, like, let's show people the behind the scenes and let's show people how we do things differently. And we have authentically, I feel like putting in our Instagram bio, like, organic growth, like,
Yes.
truly, we've been able to grow. Well, I don't know what the number is. I'm pretty decent at math, but not right now. Anyhow, we've grown from about 7,900 to almost 37,000 in just a year. So we're keep on trucking. Our goal is to hit 75,000 this year. So we'll see if we can make it happen.
I love it. No, that's so awesome. It's like a blessing in disguise, not having all that work to share.
Right? Like, I truly think if we had all of this work, like, we may not have experienced the growth that we did on social media, because we would have just been posting beautiful houses like everyone else and their mom. The other 2,500 interior designers within 25 miles of Costa Mesa. But instead, we didn't have shit to work with.
So we went to Taco Bell, Monster Energy, slides.
And we just started showing people how we worked and how we were differently. So
oh my gosh, I hope people are hearing that, because people get hung up in this, like, whatever industry they're in. It's just like, let me show you what I did. Let me show you what I did. And I don't know, if you're not interested in that right now, where's the person element? And like I said, I mean, Steph and I have both said this about you. You crack us up, and the content you put out there is often full of comedy. So I think that's always fun too.
We just try to keep it real. But I think it's been a blessing that we, at the time and the place that we didn't have a lot of new stuff to work with. So it really forced us to be intentional and to figure out, like, hey, what are we going to do to show people, like, what AEF Interiors is all about? So
you've done a good job.
Thank you.
It's been so fun. Thank you so much for coming on. For those of you who are listening, make sure you follow AEF Interiors. Look for them on PCH in July. July. Yes, on PCH in Newport Beach. So thank you, Allie.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Angie.
Absolutely.